Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice. We got some stuff here. Now, originally the plan was to have Bill Callahan, writer of Scrubs, but I was going through all the emails with Kyle, and although I appreciate so many of the writing queries, there were just so few that were screenwriting. So I guess that's on me. I thought we'd have more screenwriting specific life advice questions because he doesn't write short stories, I don't believe, in his spare time. So we had a lot of people that write in their spare time, do some different things, but it felt like less than 10% of any of the writing emails were about screenwriting. So that's what we're going to do when we have them on. We delayed it for today. So again, if you have screenwriting questions, whether you're doing it now, you know what, if you're making money, you probably aren't listening to this podcast for screenwriting advice, but I think you get the point. He was somebody that played football and then actually played overseas American football, which is kind of crazy. And then he, I believe, took an assistant's job at an agency, read everybody's scripts, started writing, and was like, I can do this. And then he wrote a spec and got repped at a really young age and has had like a 25-year career. So anyway, screenwriting advice. Now, Thursday, back to another fitness life advice with a guy who I think is a complete stud, and that's Jeremy Scott. He's a really successful guy. His workouts are incredible, and you know he's got a big following. And he actually seems like in the world of fitness branding, less of a D-bag than most of the guys. All right, so I think we will go with that because his workouts are awesome. There's so many cool things that he's done. I've been a big fan of his for a while. So that's what we'll do. Thursday, just go Jeremy Scott Fitness or Jeremy Scott. Label the title of your email that way so that Kyle and I can sift through them a lot easier. All right, cool. All right, done. Kyle, any problems with any of that stuff? Just want to check with you.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Okay, here we go. All right, we'll do this one. All right. Hey guys, 6'1", 215, 25% body fat. Raises 4 of the last 5 years. That's 80% from my math. From 45K to 143K plus 300,000 in options. Be careful about the options. It can be a little tricky. But that's all since 2015. So our guy's doing pretty well. My drinking hole is a sports bar. I've been a regular there for about 2 years now. This one other regular has always rubbed me the wrong way. He's the only person in my life to ever call me quiet. He's a Bengals fan. All right, so he doesn't even like that. To be honest, for a long time, I wanted to hang out with this guy's girl just because I disliked him so much. All right, aggressive. Eventually, I realized this grudge was unnatural, so I started to warm up to him. Mistake! Exclamation point. When the pandemic hit and my regular place got shut down, I eventually started going to the local dive. I live solo. What do you want me to do? Literally see no one in real life for a year? You're making this much money and how old is the guy? I don't know. You just, all right, whatever. I mean, everybody does whatever they want to do. This is a cash-only bar. He says $2 PBR tall boys. All right, so I start to throw darts with some of the people at this new place, building rapport. Recently, I go to the new bar with this Bengals fan, and no one will talk to us. Well, out for a smoke with one of the other dive bar regulars, I ask him, what's up? He's like, I won't hang out with that dude. I'm like, why not? He just says, Google him. So apparently the guy that no one liked and no one wanted to hang out with that our emailer sort of befriended but originally didn't really like was on To Catch a Predator. Oh. So his question is, what's the move here? Are you seriously asking us what the move is? The move is to not hang. I mean, you can't. This made me think it wasn't even real because who would go, did you think I was going to say, hey, have an open mind? You know, introduce him to some friends, have him explain his side. Because I looked through all the research on this. There's no option here other than to not hang out with them. And then selfishly, I mean, other than the obvious reasons, if you wanted to add another layer to why you wouldn't want to hang out with him, because now you're the friend of the guy that was on Catch a Predator. Kyle, I don't know that there's much to add to this one.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and abstain. I think you nailed it.
Right. Okay. All right, we got another one. We're going to rip off a few here. I'm writing right now from my wifeless bed. She's just stormed out of the room. Let me take you back. I'm the stepfather of two great kids whom we're taking to Cabo in a couple weeks for summer vacation. However, the kids' biological father made last-minute plans to take them with his wife, their stepmom, on a road trip to Key West the week and a half before Cabo with the idea of getting them back to us the day of our flight with no break in between. We were, understandably, in my view, perturbed by this as our kids have proven themselves to be complete shitheads. I love them, but it's true. At the end of and right after a long trip. All right, so I guess he's not saying they're forever shitheads. They are specific to this timeline at the end and right after a long trip. All right, fine. My wife tried to address these concerns with her ex over the phone, but it devolved into a shouting match in the backyard while I tried to convince my stepdaughter that mommy just stubbed her toe and was upset about it. The argument continued between the two of them over text message on the parenting group chat of the four of us. Those must be fun text threads. I didn't engage in it and begged my wife to step away multiple times to avoid making things worse. Nevertheless, it continued the profanity-laced insults towards the ex, accusations of drinking from the ex she hadn't been. I guess so that would mean the ex-husband was now accusing your wife, who just left the bedroom, of drinking. He says she hadn't been, and ultimately threats of restricting access to the kids. My wife has full custody due to the ex's alcoholic addiction, so that she has that capability. All right, so sounds like we got a couple that gets after it here. All right, not you. It wasn't until the ex's new wife, then the stepmom. I think everybody's following along here. Kyle, you with me? If you're with me, I know we're good.
Yeah, I got you. I didn't like that, but I got you.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. It's fair to not like that. Maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. She messaged the chat telling my wife to never talk to my husband that way. Then I interjected, saying that everyone needed to calm down and walk away before irreparable damage was done, and that would only hurt the kids. We've all put 4 years of work into figuring out a way to co-parent, and I didn't want to see all of that get destroyed over a 20-minute argument. The stepmom thanked me for being a voice of reason. Probably should have seen that as a bad sign. The ex stated that he would stop, and we could address this later with cooler heads. All good, right? Wrong. So where this is going. My wife is pissed after reading my message because it didn't seem like I had her back. Granted, I didn't step into the chat with guns blazing, yelling that they needed to step off my woman, but it's not like I was dealing with a random drunk out of or something. The ex and stepmom are a heavy presence in the kids' lives, and they aren't going anywhere. We have to find a way to get along. With that being said, is there a way I could have better handled this that got the message across while also making my wife feel like I stood up for her? Or did I deal with this tricky situation in the right manner? Thanks. Love the show. He said he'd give his measurements, but he said no one cares. You don't know that. Okay, me as a non-married, non-parent, and I can imagine some people don't necessarily want to hear what I have to say, and I can't fully understand this, but I can say this. You are in a no-win situation with this one, all right? There is no win, because if you're going to be meatier, then you don't have your wife's back, and then if you have your wife's back, then you're just throwing more gas on the fire with this. I personally think what you did was the right thing. The only thing that you could have adjusted is that maybe you could have told your wife, going, hey, I want to put an end to this as kind of the most neutral of all the parties here. And I'm going to say, hey, let's step away from this instead of me going back at her. So you could have told your wife ahead of time, hey, I want to go back at her, get her on your side. She's wrong. They're wrong. I have your back, but let me shut this down with a very passive kind of like, let's come to peace. Just saying something like, hey, ceasefire, and then we'll figure this out in the morning. That's the only thing you could do. But in the moment, it's much harder to go through that, and it's very easy for anyone after the fact, reading through it, having a little bit of time to think about it, to say, hey, you should have gone that route. But here's the biggest thing that you have to deal with here, and you already know this. All of this stuff isn't about the kids. It isn't about the vacation. It isn't about who's doing what. It's that you're dealing with two people that still are emotional enough in the relationship that they don't like each other. Like there's loving, and then there's hating, and then there's like, oh my God, I actually just don't even care anymore. And because of the kid part of it, there are going to be moments where, unfortunately for your wife, she and her ex are going to be fighting probably until these kids are like late teens. I know that sucks to hear, and maybe it'll get a little bit better, maybe mid-teens or something like that. And it doesn't mean that it's always the case, but the fact that this is the way it is right now, maybe it gets a little bit better, but this really isn't about you. It has nothing to do with you. Your wife isn't mad at you because of you. Your wife isn't really mad at you because of what you said or didn't say and all these different things. She's so mad that she knows she has to sort of evolve somebody who she already was willing to divorce, she still has to deal with this. So her anger isn't really directed at you, and you just kind of have to be the punching bag here. You know what I'm saying? So I know it sucks, especially when you look like you were the most right, clearly, out of all the four people. And for the ex-husband's new wife to say, like, you can't talk to my man that way. Like, you know what? Like, there's times where I think even as the new spouse, yes, you can defend, but like, was that cool of the new wife to say that to your wife? No, of course not. So is that what your wife wanted? I guess, but does she really want that? No, because she's just mad about the whole situation. So I think a lot of that anger and the emotion comes from the predicament that it has anything to do with what you could or could not have done. Because honestly, as I was reading that email, I was like, I already know what's going to happen here. You have no chance. Kyle.
As a child of divorce, I fucking like this guy. And I think he's doing the best that he can. And there's a lot of shitty new stepdads and stepmoms in the picture, and he's not one of those guys. And I think everybody will see that if you just continue doing what you're doing. Good job, buddy.
All right.
It'll all be okay.
Yeah. I think people cringe when we do any parental married stuff, but there you go.
We were kids once, right? We got the experience in that department, right?
Yeah, that's what I always kind of go to. Oldest of 5, child of divorce, been around. I remember reading, I think I mentioned this once, like reading divorce papers, which is probably a little weird that I was reading those at 11. But, you know, that's why after you kind of like opened up to that experience, like it actually kind of planted the seeds of like listening to people's arguments going, yeah, I think you're full of shit. Like you're just trying to win the argument, you know, like you're not trying to win the truth. You're just trying to win the argument. So you then portray the opposing side as like the worst possible thing ever, so that somehow it's almost like when you overcharge somebody with criminal charges, right? Like that's a big practice. We're like, hey, let's hammer this guy with like 11 charges.
See
you know, six or seven of them are total bullshit. It sounds terrible. Oh, this guy's got 11 charges, and then you settle. That's why whenever there's news of somebody in the public that gets arrested for like something, I don't know, let's say mildly serious to very serious, and then it'll be like with a conviction, this is 10 years in jail, and you're like, all right, whatever. Like, get to me when the real announcement happens, when the guy doesn't go to jail. Because if it's anybody that's in the public eye enough, I'm not saying it's fair, but it's just kind of the way it works. So whenever I hear like newsy people, news stuff, and it'll happen in sports too. Like you'll hear the offense, you'll hear the name of the person, it's doomsday, and then like every report will end with what the potential jail time will be. And you're like, yeah, except none of the guys ever really go to jail, like almost ever. All right. Okay, we got a guy named Nick checking in here from Australia. 6 foot, 171. He gets right to it. I like the way this guy writes. The problem is that during studying at university here in Australia, I've been working at a place part-time for the last 2.5 years, and due to my age and the nature of the job, I've worked with a lot of people who are older than me, as I am only 21. During working there, I've been the only single guy pretty much the entire time, as many people here are married. I had this one fling with this girl that worked here, but it didn't work out. All right. The problem at the moment is, however, this girl started about 3 months ago and is the first girl in a while that is my age. All right. So he says he had a fling with this girl that worked here, but it didn't work out. He mentions the problem here as the girl started 3 months ago as the first girl. All right. There's also something that'll happen. I mean, I've had buddies in weird situations work-wise where they're like, hey, you hanging out with that person? And it's just like, I don't know. There's something in the science, the pheromones, where you're just working with somebody all the time. Somebody's on the landscaping crew with you, and you're like, do you hear what Doug's hanging out with that girl from, I guess she's from like St. Augustine, Florida or something. She's on the landscaping crew. Like, yeah, I don't know. They spent all summer together. Kyle, do you have any experience in this? Maybe Parks and Rec, all of a sudden you're dating somebody.
Dude.
What's that?
Restaurants, dude. The walk-in freezer gets dicey.
My man.
Uncomfortable.
Walk-in freezer. You know what's up. Okay. All right. So anyway, this girl's the same age. Fling didn't work out. She moved from Europe and only last year got married at 20 years old. All right. So I'm so confused here. So she's married at 20, but she did it in order to stay to keep her visa during the isolation period. At first, when she started, I thought she was incredibly nice, and she would text me every day about different things that I just took as nothing but trying to gain a new good relationship with work friends or to meet new people in Melbourne. And given that she is quite attractive and funny, I just rolled with it. The husband would come up now and again, but only for about a minute or two. The flirting and sexual tension, however, went into overdrive about a month ago when, according to her, the husband cheated on her. All right. So she's 20. She's from Europe. She wanted to stay in Australia. She marries another guy. You had a fling with her, unless the fling is somebody completely different. I think, okay, wait a minute. Are you guys with me here? I think he's saying the fling was somebody completely different. And then he says the problem at the moment is.
Yeah, just a bad setup on his part, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, he's got a different writing style. I'll give him that. All right. So I feel like this is not the best read I've ever done for life advice. So let's go forward with it as if this second girl is the new girl. So she's quite attractive, funny, just roll with it. The husband would come up now and again, but only for about a minute or two. The flirting and sexual tension between our emailer and the girl, however, went into overdrive about a month ago when, according to her, the husband cheated on her. All right, fine. Since then, at work, she sent me photos of herself in bed, texts me just about every day, grabs me on the ass at work. Safe space. Comments about how cute I am. And only the other day, I caught her smelling my jumper from my locker. I imagine jumper is... So, Rudy, you can help us out with some of the international stuff here. Jumper is just a coat, right? Like a little jacket you pull over. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of dudes don't. All right. So I caught her smelling my jumper from my locker. And when I asked her about it, she said she was doing it just to remember what I smelled like. Sorry for the long-winded explanation, but the real reason I'm asking you is because I have an event coming up this weekend in which I reluctantly invited her and the husband to be a good guy. He goes parentheses. So she invites her and her husband, yet she's decided to come by herself and has joked about getting drunk and hanging out together. I know she is married. I may look like a dick, but I've never met the guy, and she clearly doesn't love him as a normal wife does. So I've entertained the idea of us doing something. I know I probably sound like the dentist with Jennifer Aniston off of Horrible Bosses, but what should I do? Should I run for the fucking hills? 2, wait if she makes a move and then go from there. 3, make a move myself and risk being completely rejected and being a loser. 4, try to shut her down in a polite way as we work together just about every day. All right. As always, as you map this out, you kind of already know what you're doing. So you're not going to really listen to me all that much. The whole wait if she makes a move and then go from there, it sounds like she's already making her moves. If she's sending you pictures of herself in bed and then smells your jacket and you caught her and she was like, hey, I just want to make it's on, right? I don't think there's anything, but the weird part about this, other than her being married and her being mad at a husband for cheating on her when you said they don't like, do you have a great understanding or a vague removed understanding of what the relationship really is? And then you invited the husband, which is kind of funny, but you don't. I think look, you're obviously going to hook up with her. You are. I don't think you'd get rejected, but I also think that you're signing up for something here that could be really, really stressful. So you could ask her in greater detail, like what's exactly up with the husband part of this. I don't really think you care about the work thing. I mean, everybody says, don't fish off the company porch. And then they're presented with an option that they're like, whoa. And then they just do it. So I think a lot of people from the work standpoint are hypocrites. Not everyone, but a lot of people are. And you're right. Like if it goes badly and then there's a husband and you work together, you could be signing up for a really, really bad deal. But I'm pretty sure you're going to do it already.
Yeah, the fact is, if you hang out with her outside of work, it's going to happen like the first or second time, I think, especially if you guys are like at an event with drinks. So,
yeah, you just invited her. You just invited her to something. So if you were like remotely hesitant about the whole thing, then you don't invite her, but sometimes getting that attention, playing along and thinking like, oh, there's no harm in this and all those things. Like, I think people need that stuff and they like that stuff. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, especially when it's in the beginning and it's that text and it's that energy that you get from it. And you're like, oh, this is kind of exciting. And that newness. I mean, there's no other phase like that. And it's great when it works out and you find your life partner, but you never experience that again. And that's why I think people cheat, because then they experience it again and it's all new, even though they feel bad about it, but it feels sort of innocent. And then, that moment, that's such an awesome, awesome moment in the, not just the pursuit, but the, wow, this is going to work out. And now this person wants to spend this time with me and I can't wait to see him. And I can't, every text and all that kind of stuff. I've never had it happen to me, so I don't know what it's like, but I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't kidding. Like the Dennis Reynolds, like, you guys have feelings? I haven't felt things in years.
Anyway, so I don't know. So Rudy, you can jump in here a little bit too, right? Because I mean, there was a while there you were dating a lot of the on-air girls at ESPN before you got married.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yep, no big deal. Just bringing up that. No, so I met my wife. She worked at ESPN. We didn't actually know.
Oh, she did?
She worked at ESPN. Not when we got married, but initially, I would have never met her through work though. We met at in West Hartford, hanging out through mutual friends. But my question with this guy is, what's the goal here? Are you just looking to hook up with somebody? Are you looking for a relationship? Are you looking for something even more long term than that? Because I would say if you're just looking to hook up and you don't really care about her situation or the fact that she's married, then all right, yeah, I guess that's going to make you happy, go for it. But if this is something that you like this girl, you want to see something long term, there are just a lot of red flags going on here. I mean, if one of these things, if it wasn't a work thing, or she wasn't married, or she wasn't sniffing your whatever it was, I think there's just too many things here for this to be a long-term, successful, healthy relationship. So I would ask him, what do you want out of this? And that'll give you your answer.
Yeah, it's pretty good there. I think he wants to hook up with her because he's asking her out. He's mentioned numerous times. I mean, but the thing that's weird is that why can she get mad at him for cheating? If the marriage is completely business, which it definitely isn't, that's the problem. Like if she's probably hooking up with her husband and she's mad that he cheated on her mother. So if he wants to have any kind of solace in any part of this, you may want to fully understand. And I don't even know that she's going to tell you the truth, but what actually is the deal with the husband part of this? Because if she's mad and admitting to you like, oh, he cheated on me, then it sounds like they have a little bit more of a relationship. It's just strictly business, even if she doesn't really care about him as much. So that's, I don't know. Good luck with all that. One more. I don't know. So Rudy, looked like you had one more thing to say.
No, I was just, you got to be careful too. Like, is he cool with being the revenge hookup? Because that's what this seems like too. Like, is she trying to get back at the husband by trying to hook up with somebody else and making her feel better about herself? If you're cool with that, then go for it. But you just got to understand what the situation is.
Kyle, have you been cool with being the revenge hookup?
Yeah, and I think he's probably okay with it too.
Yeah, I love your honesty. Okay, final one. This one hit close to home. It'll be quick. You guys aren't going to believe me on this one. This one's pretty crazy because you'd have to be from the area to understand it. I'm going to leave his name out of it, even though the email has his name in there. Hey, Ryan, 5'9", 175, big fan of the pod. I just finished my freshman year at UVM, Vermont, where, for those that don't know, where I went to school. I was just there for a couple weeks. I'm looking for some advice on how to address an intimidated convicted coke dealer. On a couple of occasions while walking to class, I've encountered a local rapper crossing the street. On one of these occasions, he was rapping to himself before he turned directly towards a diminutive female student heading the opposite direction and very loudly said, "Walk away, bitch." That's not nice. It did not appear that he knew this student, but she seemed moderately terrified by the interaction. I was so caught off guard that I stared in disbelief and said nothing. With at least 3 more years ahead of me in Burlington, I want to be ready if an interaction such as this occurs again. How should I confront him if this happens again? Or do you think I'm crazy for even considering confronting him? So then he sent me the links to the guy. I know this guy and played pickup hoops with him forever. Yes, he's been in and out of. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So is he older?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm old.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Look, I think there are some I'm not making light of anything he did because I actually even saw him walking around when I was back there, and he is a out loud talk to himself, yell at people in the streets. He's been walking around there for a long time. So I think there's some mental health stuff going on there, which I I don't want to assume, but I knew him back then, and I've seen some of the stuff because people send me links because we used to play at Pomeroy, King Street, a couple other places. We used to play all the time, and we would go at it, but we never hung out. We weren't like friends. But if he saw me, there was a lot of like pound it out, hug it out, what's up every time I came back, because without fail, as the bars were emptying, you would see him running around. So I could say, tell him Russillo. Say, what's up? The best advice would be to not deal with it. 5'9", 175. We respect all sizes on this podcast, but he's not a small guy. And, I think there's some unhinged moments. So everybody would love to be a hero and all that kind of stuff. The fact that he's up on campus now, just yelling at people, because that's, a bit of, it's a walk from town. It's not like it's that far, but I would leave this one alone. But if it gets weird, maybe I'll email you a picture of me just doing a little thumbs up, and then you can show it to him, and then maybe he'll be like, "Oh, Russillo? All right, we're cool now." But it's not exactly a guy that you're going to be friends with. You're a freshman at UVM. You're likely not going to be hanging out together. I know he's had a bunch of legal issues and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just telling you, I would proceed with caution here, even though it sucks that he would say that to anyone on campus, specifically a female student. But I don't know what else to tell you beyond that. Yeah. All right. So I think we're done. Yeah. I mean, right.
I have more questions. Well,
go ahead.
When you say local rapper, like, does he have like mixtape out? Like, is he actually a rapper, or is he just like think he's a rapper?
I would say independent rapper is probably the best way to put it.
Okay. And he just raps in Burlington, hangs out, and like talks shit to people on the sidewalk. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, pretty much. That's about it.
Oh, man. All right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, you don't mess with that guy. I'm sorry. You just don't.
Yeah. I mean, he only liked me because, I mean, we're going back over 20 years ago when we were playing hoops together. I volunteered at a youth center when I was 22, and then I just started playing in the pickup games at the youth center because he's a couple years younger than me. So he was eligible to be at the youth center, and then they asked me to leave the youth center. They were like, "You're not really a great fit here." I was 22. I started playing pickup hoops, and just like, they were like, "Dude, you're calling fouls and arguing about fouls with guys." I'm admitting I was the wrong guy at that time of my life. I was trying to do something nice, trying to give back. And the youth center people were like, "We just admire the fact that you even gave it a shot, but I just don't know that right now where you're at is like, you're the best fit for what we're doing here." And I was like, "All right, yeah, I'm out."
That's funny because those places usually aren't overflowing with extra help. So I'm surprised that did they offer you something in like the cafeteria or something, or cleaning the rollerblades, or?
No, it was I showed up. It was kind of like junior high to high school age kids, and I was 22. And our guy that we were talking about, I think he was young enough to get away with it. I think he was late teens, but he was probably older than he should have been to be there. So then they had pickup hoops games in the indoor gym, and then he'd be like, "Hey, do you want to play?" And nobody was talking to me. I would go hang out in like kind of the reading room. There was like video games, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, how are you doing?" And people the younger kids just shut down around me. Like there wasn't really much of a connection, and I was trying. I like helped a kid clean up a hallway together. Like I tried a few times, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to play hoops?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem. It's on." And like, I think I went out there in like dress pants and took off my shirt and was running around and like arguing about fouls. And it got really intense. And some of the other guys were yelling at me. And because I think there was it wasn't like I was 22 and I was playing 15-year-olds. There were other guys that I played with that were like late teens that were just showing up to this youth center, and they probably weren't supposed to be there, but I think because they were under 20, they were allowed. So there were like 18 and 19-year-old other kids. So I had played with them in other parts.
Yeah. You were supposed to be the guy that was like keeping it on.
Oh, right. I was supposed to like not play, not argue.
You're the
keep
ref,
a
basically.
shirt on. Yeah.
You're supposed to ref.
And so it wasn't like an incident. It was just all the other stuff isn't really working out, and now this basketball element, like we probably don't need this, and like some of these kids are probably too old to be here, and then some of them, and I was like, look, I don't know them, I play pickup hoops at different courts all summer long. That's just what I do during the day. And they were like, yeah, look, thank you so much, but it's not going to work out. I was like, all right, I'm out of here.
The old college try. Good for you.
That was my first volunteering experience. I think it was my first one. Yeah, pretty sure it was. Did not have that one. I think I even put it on a resume, dude. That's the best part. Is I think at 26, I put it on a resume years later, because your resume when you're bartending isn't like super stacked with great stuff there.
Russillo cares about the kids.
Yep. Trick loves the kids. Thank you to Steve Cerruti and Kyle Crichton for their work on this podcast. And remember, Jeremy Scott Fitness, life advice questions, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com for next week. Please subscribe, rate, review. Thanks as always.